Our basic science class today, we are covering potential and kinetic energy. Our previous class, we discussed chemical, and we have actually ended that series. We have about 3 series on chemicals, and we entered energy. We explained what energy is, what power is, and what work is. So today we are going to talk about 2 kinds of energy: potential energy and kinetic energy. What do we mean by potential energy? Potential energy, the energy possessed by a body by virtue of its position relative to other objects. Potential energy is the energy possessed by a body by virtue of its position. Let me take an example. Let's say this is a hill. This is a hill, and an object, a stone, it's here. This is the stone. This is the stone here. This is the object. The hill, up the hill, is the position. So the hill is the position of this object. Now, if the object is here on top of the hill, this is the position. And so if this object moves down here, we'll find out that it's going to possess another energy. But let's talk of the potential energy. The object, which is the stone here, the position, which is on top of the hill. And so when this stone is pushed down, the force at which the stone is pushed down possesses an energy. And the stone, being at this height, now possesses potential energy. So the height of this, the height of the hill, and the position of the object determines the potential energy that the object possesses. So when we say that potential energy is the energy possessed by a body by virtue of its position, the top of the hill is the position relative to other objects. Now, the height. So a potential energy can be assessed by the height, the position in which the object is positioned. Now let's take, for example, a catapult. The elasticity of a catapult gives it the potential energy it possesses. If it stretches like a rubber band, that masculine energy put into it to stretch it is the potential energy that the body possesses because of the position of the elasticity of the band. And so when it moves and drops, that's the speed or the motion it moves to drop in a position, the energy it possesses to drop down is a potential energy. So the height, we give it its energy, because if you push this stone from this height down to the bottom of the hill, the force at which is going to drop down has given it that high energy. That is for potential energy. Now let's take, for example, bow and arrow. If you stretch a bow, you see the elastic nature of that stretch of the bow will give the arrow the strength to move at a direction. So when you stretch it, the muscular energy put into it to stretch it will push it to go and hit a high target. Like, for example, a gun. If you pull the gun and pull the trigger, the direction is going to go and hit the target. The energy it possesses to hit the target is a potential energy. The energy this stone will move and push down here, is going to be the potential energy because of the height of the object and because of the force of push that pull it down to the position it will come to. That is potential energy. I've given you 3 examples. First, a stone on a hill, the position of the stone on the hill. Then the push to its final stop will push it down. Now, objects, some are heavier in size. Let's say this is a stone, and on this top of the hill again, another place, there is a bigger stone, bigger than this. You agree with me that when this stone is pushed down, the energy it will possess will not be the same with this one, because this is heavier, this is bigger. When it pushed down, it will possess heavier energy, higher energy than this. And so this stone here, at this height, is the position of the stone. Remember, we said the energy possessed by a body by virtue of its position. So this is the body, and the hill is the position. So if you push it down, the force at which is going to come down, the energy at which is going to fall down, is the potential energy. Now we are going to see how this example can help us to explain kinetic energy. Now we have seen potential energy. We've seen that potential energy is an energy possessed by a body by virtue of its position. So that means that the body will take a height, and the body will have a mass. The body will be put on a height, and the body will have a height. And so when it's pushed from that height to where it will fall, that force that pull it down to where it falls, that is the energy. It's like you have a pull-off scale and you tie a stone on it, and you have a pull-off scale again. Okay, let me take for example now. Let's take for example that I have something like this that comes down, and I tie a stone here and it comes down here. The moment this, if I release this rope and this stone falls down, this is a body because I tied it there. And if I have a bigger body, like I put here, and I tie a bigger body here, if it pushes down, it's going to take another force. So this is the body. This rope that suspended it up there is the height, because this is the ground and this is the height at which it is. And once it is released down, it's going to possess a heavier weight on the ground. That is potential energy. So we have seen what potential energy is. We have seen what potential energy is. Now let us look at kinetic energy. How do we explain kinetic energy? And how can we relate it to our potential energy? Now look at kinetic energy. Energy of an object due to its motion. Energy of an object due to its motion. The work needed to accelerate a body of a given mass from rest to its stated velocity. What do we mean? A vehicle on the move. The motion at which it is moving is kinetic energy. If the vehicle or the car is moving, it possesses kinetic energy because the motion at which it moves. Now let's go back to that stone I used in our potential energy example. Now I take this stone, it's in a hill here. Now how does this stone, this body, which is the stone, possess its kinetic energy? If I push this stone from the height, this is the height. If I push this stone from here to here, the movement at which this stone moves from here to here is kinetic energy, because it requires motion to move. So when I push it, the process of rolling down the hill, it's kinetic energy. Now let's take another example. Leaves on the tree top. The process of the leaf pulling off the tree or pulling off its branches to get to the ground, the motion at which it moves from the tree top down to the ground is kinetic energy. So it's at motion. Now, back to the bow and arrow I use. You stretch it your bow. The process of putting in muscular energy of stretching and it moving, the movement from the initial body to hit a target, the speed it moves with, that motion is kinetic energy. And so it requires speed. The motion requires speed. So if he moves like this, it means that motion have taken place and that thing possesses kinetic energy. A mango tree that is ripe and fall from the tree down to the ground, the movement of the mango from the tree down to the ground, that speed it takes, that motion it takes before it hits the ground is kinetic energy. That is why we said energy of an object due to its motion, the work needed to accelerate a body of a given mass from rest to its stated velocity. So if it moves from its original position and then there is a movement which is speed to get to its destination, which means that motion have taken place. If you move, motion have taken place. So whether the stone that moves from the height of the mountain, you push it and move down to the down of the hill, the movement from the top of the mountain down here, from this process to this process, this is kinetic energy. A catapult that I stretch to hit a target, the movement from my hand where I stretch it to hit the target, that distance where it moves with speed is what? Kinetic energy. So we've been able to talk about kinetic energy. That means that potential energy has to be there before kinetic energy happens, because the object will be there and the push will be there for it to accelerate or have motion in order for kinetic energy to occur. Bear that in mind. So in our class for today, we've been able to discuss what potential energy is and what kinetic energy is. Remember that potential energy, it's energy possessed by virtue of its position, by virtue of its height. While kinetic energy, it's energy of an object due to its motion, its movement from the place it is placed, and then the movement it takes from its original position to another position. That is kinetic energy. So in our next class in basic science, we'll discuss other areas of our basic science class. Please watch the video again and again. Differentiate between kinetic energy and potential energy from our class for today. If you have not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe. If you like what we do here, give us a thumbs up. If you have questions, comment below the comment box. Thank you for being part of this class. I'll see you in our next class.